The PlayStation Store is running its games under $15 sale, which I really see as the calm before the storm before they start their days of play sale, but there's a lot of great deals available. We already took a look at games under the price of $5 from this sale. Now we're going to take a look at games under the price of $10. So essentially games from the price of $5.01 to $9.99, so keep that in mind. Without further ado, let's get right into it, and I want to kick things off with WipEout the Omega Collection. This is one of the PlayStation exclusives that's kind of been forgotten about over the last few years. This includes all the content of WipEout HD, WipEout HD Fury, and WipEout 2048. I remember playing WipEout HD way back on the PS3, and I believe it was the first ever PlayStation Plus title that was given out on PS3, back before PlayStation Plus was mandatory to play online, and I remember having such a good time with it. WipEout 2048 was released on the PlayStation Vita, and Fury was the extension to WipEout HD. WipEout is just a fantastic arcade racing franchise, and I'm a little bit saddened that Sony hasn't been more invested into this franchise. Who knows what the commercial numbers are, but WipEout is just so much fun as an arcade racer, and if you have PlayStation VR, this is a game that surprisingly is one of the best VR titles that you can find, so take that into account as well if you do have a VR headset. $9.99 for all the content you're getting, I think, is a pretty solid pickup. Next up, now this isn't the greatest price in the world, but the game is so good that I still wanted to give it a shout. Castle Crashers Remastered is 40% off for $8.99. Now this game is literally on sale all the time on PC for like $3, so that's why I'm like, the price isn't the greatest, but Castle Crashers itself is such a good game with so much replay value. It's a game that you can easily go back to so many times, especially if you have a couple buddies to play with. Grab a beer, get some friends, and you will have a great time with Castle Crashers, and it has this art style that has aged tremendously. Like, it came out back in 2008 or 2009, and it still is an appealing visual game in 2021 just because of the aesthetic style it employs. You can play Castle Crashers solo, but yeah, I don't know about that one. I wouldn't recommend it. I would highly recommend, have 3 friends also pick the game up, and you're gonna have a really good time with it, and it's just a blast to play. Played it way back in the day, and it's still a game that I played recently, like probably a year or two ago. I had a great time with it. So $9, yes, it's kind of expensive, but for the amount of replay value you get, for the amount of sheer fun factor it is, I think it's still a pretty good pickup. Next up, we have Just Cause 4 Reloaded, $7.99. Now, I recommended Just Cause 3 and the game's under $5. Definitely check that out if you never played a Just Cause game and you want to stay on a budget, but $8 for Just Cause 4 Reloaded is actually pretty good. Just Cause 4 was kind of a train wreck when it came out, but this Reloaded version is quite a bit better, and it does include a lot of additional just items, in-game items. I shouldn't say content, because really what you're getting is some like a wingsuit, a jet, and things of that nature, but the game itself is pretty good, and you're not paying that full $60, you're just paying $8, and the game itself still offers that, over-the-top action fun that you know and love out of Just Cause if you've played the games in the past. And $8 for it, I think, is a pretty solid pickup. Next up, Infamous Second Son is 50% off for $9.99. Now, it should be mentioned that this is a part of the Instant Game Collection on PlayStation 5, so if you have a PS5, you can play the game that way. If you have a PS4, Infamous Second Son was one of my favorite early PlayStation 4 exclusives. It came out back in like early 2014, and it was like the first PS4 exclusive that came out after the initial wave of launch titles, and I really like the game. While it's my least favorite of the 3 Infamous games, and that doesn't say much just because all 3 Infamous games I think are at a very high level. Second Son was a great game. Visually, it still holds up incredibly well. Delson, the main character, I think is pretty good. Not Cole McGrath good, but he's pretty good, and the story's solid. Game is relatively short, all things considered. If you do like not a lot of the side content, you can beat it relatively quickly. I think when I first played through it, and I just blitzed through the game to see the story, I think I beat it in like 7 or 8 hours. Yeah, it wasn't that long at all. But if you do all the side content, which, bear in mind, the side content does get a little bit redundant at times, but if you do all the side content, if you try to do everything and get the Platinum Trophy, that's going to take you a little bit longer, but still a very achievable Platinum Trophy. I mean, the game screwed me out of getting the Platinum Trophy, because I was playing it before launch, and I think there was a bug going around, and the game bugged at me towards the end of my evil playthrough, and I'm still kind of salty about that. Talked about that story story a little bit in the past, but $9.99 for Infamous Second Son I think is pretty good. Game itself has aged very well. Next up, Assassin's Creed Syndicate is 70% off for $8.99. This is a really good Assassin's Creed title that had the unfortunate fate of being released right after Assassin's Creed Unity, so it just had such a bad rap going into it. The bad rap for the franchise, I should say, because like everybody hated Unity, but Syndicate I thought was a really good game, had two great main characters, story was good, traversal was made a lot easier, and just one of the more underrated Assassin's Creed game, and ultimately this was the final Assassin's Creed game before they transitioned into the, AC Origins of the world. But I thought Syndicate was really good. It did flop from a commercial standpoint, comparatively speaking to other Assassin's Creed titles, but one that I would recommend you to go back and check out. I think you're going to have a good time with it. Next up, we have Alien Isolation, 80% off for $5.99. This is a killer deal here. It's not the Alien Isolation, the collection with the additional content, but still the base game for $6 is pretty good. If you're a fan of survival horror games, really good pickup. Visually looks great, and yeah, I mean the survival horror does dissipate a little bit towards the end of the game, but hey, that's kind of the story with all of the games like this, and it's still a really good one that does invoke that element of horror, at least initially. And for $6, this is a killer deal. A lot of people thought highly of it for $60 back when it came out at the end of 2014. I think it was end of 2014, but yeah, now for $6, definitely a good pickup. Next up, want to give a shout to Prototype 1 and 2. Prototype 1 is $5.99, Prototype 2 is $7.99. I would say Prototype 2 is the better game. Prototype 1 is worth playing as well. Just, yo, the visuals are memes. Yeah, I get that. This looks like a good-looking PS2 game, and it came out on the PS3 and pretty deep into the PS3's life. Yeah, people ragged on the visuals when it initially came out, and this version doesn't make it that much better. However, it's still a pretty enjoyable open-world action title that really does make you feel like a superhero. Like, when you talk about these games, you really want to make the main character and the player feel like a superhero, and I thought Prototype did a really good job of that, giving you a lot of different abilities and just let you kick some serious butt. The story's pretty good, and I thought, again, Prototype 2 is a better game, but Prototype 1 is still worth playing, and yeah, $5.99 and $7.99 I thought respectively were pretty good deals. Next up, Pillars of Eternity Complete Edition, 80% off for $9.99. This is a game that I often go to bat for whenever it's on sale. Pillars of Eternity is a fantastic game, and this Complete Edition includes the expansion, The White March Part 1 and 2, and that adds a considerable amount of content. Now, I played a lot of this on PC. The PlayStation 4 version, like, ideally you want to play Pillars of Eternity with a keyboard and mouse, but the PlayStation 4 version works well enough that you can easily play it on there as well, and $10 for all the content that you're getting, I think this is a killer deal. Great story, good bit of replay value, and it's going to keep you busy for a while for the amount of money that you're spending, so definitely go check out Pillars of Eternity Complete Edition. Next up, for those of you that like your quality platformers, definitely check out Celeste, which is 70% off for $5.99. I remember when this game came out, back in, like, I want to say 2017, late 2017, early 2018, around that time frame, and it came out, I didn't know much about it, and then I just saw the reviews coming out, and people giving it 10 out of 10s, and I was like, whoa, what is going on? What is this Celeste game? And then I played it, and yeah, it is an incredibly well-designed platformer that if you're a fan of platformers, you should definitely check it out. A little bit challenging, but the right amount of challenge as well. For $5.99, I think this is a great pickup, and it's one that retained its price point for quite a while. Now it's getting relatively cheap, and at this price point, I think it is a great pickup. And lastly, I do want to give a shout to LittleBigPlanet 3, which is 50% off for $9.99. LittleBigPlanet 3, for a lot of people, is seen as the black sheep of the LittleBigPlanet franchise. It wasn't all done by Media Molecule, it was actually done by Sumo Digital, and Sumo Digital has been making some waves recently. They just put out Hood, Outlaws, and Legends, I believe, so yeah, quite the disparity of games, but LittleBigPlanet 3 is still a quality platformer from a single-player standpoint, and from that standpoint, I would recommend you to play the game. Now, you're going into it for the single player, so if you want to get a quality platformer and, you know, one of the most charming PlayStation mascots of all time, Sackboy, you know, it's a good game that you can play even if you're an adult, or if you want to show it to, you know, your kid, your younger cousin, whatever the case may be, younger sibling. You can have a good time playing with them as well. So $9.99 I think is a good pickup for LittleBigPlanet 3. So that's gonna wrap up this one. Again, this sale, as well as the extended play sale, to me, I'm really seeing it as the calm before the storm, before we see the days of play sale, before we really transition into the summer sale and the bigger sales that are to come in the next few months. So still some pretty good deals, but I think the bigger deals are are yet to come. That's gonna wrap up this one. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.